Hello everyone and welcome to Calm in the Chaos. This should be a workshop that is less than an hour long. I really thank you for taking the time to come on in and join me this evening. This will also be sent, the recording of this will be sent to your inbox tomorrow, probably in the afternoon, so keep an eye out for that. The only part of this that will be recorded is the workshop section. Once we have our live Q&A at the end, the recording will be completed before we do that, so we can have a confidential chat as opposed to our lives being shared for everyone to see. So if you have any comments or questions, please pop them in the chat box. I'm quite happy for you to take yourself off mute and ask a question at any time as well. And the more that you, interact and ask questions or respond to the questions I've got, the more information can kind of come out. Because whilst I've got a set flow for this kind of thing, we do like to ad-lib a bit, don't we, Shelley? And just go with, what the specific issues are for people who are participating. So let's get on with it. So just a little bit first about myself and Shelley and the Carers Place. So the Carers Place is about 18 months old, and we provide support and education and, as you would know, a connected community for parents and carers of people with high needs. In the most part, our services are online, but also we're starting to do some work in the community and with private businesses as well. And what we do is ensure that whatever it is we're providing is based specifically on client needs. So that's why you'll see me ask a lot of questions in the group to ensure that I'm in touch with what your needs are. So I'm a mum and a carer. Welcome to whoever's just hopped on. So I'm a mum and a carer and have been for almost 16 years now. So I've got two children, Matthew and Joshua, and together with my experience, I have skills and qualifications in the health and wellness and education sectors as well. And really the Carers Place was born from my own experiences, as you can probably imagine. One of isolation, two, I was desperate for other carers not to do it as tough as perhaps I had, especially in the early days, and to learn from some of those lessons that I've learnt over the years as well, but also to provide a community and a space where we can come together, because one of the biggest things I struggled with, particularly certainly for the first 13 years, was not being able to talk to other people who got it. And also, I struggled with taking care of myself because I had a fixed mindset that, I had to give everything to my kids. And along the way, I got very sick myself. So that's a little bit about me. Shelley, I think I'll get you to introduce yourself. So Shelley works with me, and I love having her here. So Shelley,
oh, thanks.
hey.
Hi. I didn't know. Cathy showed me this clip about 5 minutes before we came on tonight. So I actually didn't know I was going to be famous with my picture on here and everything. So I'm in the spotlight, and I've frozen. It's a flight of site thing that's going on. Anyway, so I'm Shelley. I'm a mum also. I have been a carer in the past for some of my children who had chronic illness and special needs. So that person has since grown up into a wonderful young man who's 22, and I do have one younger one who you may hear in the background, hopefully not, who has some learning difficulties too when we're going through that at the moment. But so I'm still a carer.
You are still a carer, sorry.
I am still a carer, but I'm just not full-time, because obviously I share custody of my children with my husband. So it's a half and half thing. Yes, I'm also a registered nurse. I've spent many years, especially the last 8 years, working around the area of chronic illness and chronic disease management and mental health. And so that led me to also undertake another degree. So I'm studying psychology at the moment as well, and I've been fortunate enough to be taken up and employed by a psychology firm here in Adelaide, working as a lived experience mentor. That means that I can basically use my experience and things that have happened to me in my life, mental health area and the carer area, to help other people in similar situations through those difficult times. So that's part of the role that I now do, as well as other bits and bobs for them. But that's me, and I feel like I'm babbling, so I'm going to now.
Thanks, Shelley. It's all good. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, on that point, my deepest wish for you, and my desire really, is that you as a mother and as a carer afford yourself the same time, love, compassion, understanding and care that you would for those that you love and support yourself. Okay, so this evening we're going to really delve into chaos. What's the problem? What contributes to chaos in our lives? What promotes calm? Some of the immediate solutions that we can use right now, and what some of the longer term solutions are. And then we're going to go into a bit of a brief Q&A if anyone's got any questions. So some of these things I will flick through the slides quite quickly, because I'd rather answer your questions and talk to you as opposed to just rattling off what you can already read and you probably already know. So just wondering for you, how does it show up? So, you know, when you're in absolute chaos, what does that look like for you? Is it, you know, do you get heart palpitations, or do you, you know, sort of hide away from the things that you need to do? Or is it, you know, your kids are running around crazy and you don't know whether you're coming or going, so you're kind of walking around in circles, not really achieving anything? What are some of the things or some of the ways that stress shows up for you and chaos shows up for you in your home? Because it's very different for each of us. So I'm going to start, and you may be able to relate to some of these. Like I said, pop your answers in the chat box. It can be just one word answers, and again, this is very different for each of us. So does it show up as anger or frustration, or do you get snappy? Are you kind of a little bit moody? Do you procrastinate a lot, or do you get distracted really easily? And social media is an extremely convenient distraction these days, and I know that that's one of my biggest issues when it's a bit chaotic in my life. Social media kind of goes up, but you know, are you forgetful? Or do you have a bit of brain fog? You can't concentrate, or you can't think. You know, when you're talking to people, you can't even, you know, get the words out. And I talked about being busy, emotional. Do you get really emotional, or are you manic? Are you sort of up and down and you don't know whether you're coming or going? Shelley, you're distant and brain foggy, physical fatigue. That's a good one. Well, it's not good that you go through that, but that's a good point. Heart palpitations, brain fog, snappy and tearful. And do they tend to come up all the time or all at once, or just sort of, it sort of comes in waves? You can pop your answers in there. And some people are more like, you know what, I just withdraw and hide, and I find that I can do that sometimes as well. There's no rhyme or reason for me. I'm not sure if you're the same, but for me, you know, I can be frustrated and snappy one minute, and then other times I just withdraw and I don't want to talk to the world. And that's generally when you're processing stuff. So with withdrawal, distraction, brain fog when I was worst time with diagnosis, absolutely. Diagnosis, that is a it's a raw topic, isn't it, for all of us? I mean, that's that's a series of workshops in itself in terms of dealing with diagnosis and what to do or what not to do, and how to handle it. So Kamala says it comes in waves, and Sam says insomnia, snappy, anxiety, procrastination. So, hi Sarah. Excellent. We've only just started, so welcome. I'm glad that you could make it. You have all the ones. Yeah, you can't focus, strained, anxious, brain fog, spinning, tearful, heart palpitations. Yeah, it's, you know, and like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. These are all just some things. So what are some of the things that contribute? So not so much how it shows up, but what are the things that can kind of either tip you over the edge or contribute, sort of, you know, like that straw on the camel's back kind of thing? What is the thing or things that you find in your life that cause and create, you know, the most amount of chaos? I'll go into this and then you can add your thoughts to the chat. So these sorts of things could be physical, they could be emotional or environmental. Unpredictability of seizures, absolutely. You don't know what you're expecting, Sam. You don't know what moment to moment is going to bring. Yeah, so the uncertainty and the unknown, it's that, isn't it? Feeling like I can't change what is going on with my children, helplessness. Yeah, and I think that's a very common one. And I think it's on the next slide anyway. But what causes chaos for a lot of us is that lack of control, feeling absolutely powerless to change a situation. And, you know, dealing with that is quite intense and can be quite confronting. So, you know, some of the other things, you know, because we've got some control over things in our lives and some we don't. Stress with schools, your health problems, children not coping. So I'm just going to read through some of these for the people who are listening at home as opposed to watching the slides, and then I'll come back to your comments as well. So too much to do, too little time is a big one for lots of people. Poor sleep quality, and that might be, you know, problems getting to sleep, staying asleep, interruptions because of your caring role, problems waking up, organisation and physical mess. So clutter and mess in the home can really contribute to you feeling like you've got a chaotic environment as well. And in a couple of weeks, we're actually looking at organisation and physical and emotional chaos, clutter as well. A lack of support and little understanding, and that can be from, you know, the people who live in our own home. It can be from family and friends. It can also be with the professionals that we work with, you know, whether it's the educators or whether it's the medical staff or allied health professionals, or, you know, whether it's, you know, the NDIS people or Centrelink or whomever. Just that pure lack of empathy, understanding, it can just be that alone. Conflicting priorities as well. You don't know what's the most important thing. Everyone wants a piece of you, and all of the things that they wanted yesterday and is the most important thing. So that can be really, really difficult to deal with as well. Kids and your caring role is taxing, and crisis, like we talked about, you know, diagnosis is a great example. So I'm just going to go back through here. All of the things on the screen. So dealing with government departments and lack of clarity around what assistance is available. Perfect, Shelley. Absolutely. So many of us don't actually know what services are out there. And even trying to find stuff on the internet or be connected, you don't know what you don't know. And it's such a minefield on the internet as well. If you don't know what you're searching for, you can't find what you're looking for or what you need. So, yeah. having to tell new people the same story. I know I used to joke that I should just have the story on record and I could just like play it for people so I don't have to waste my breath. You know that feeling, Shelley, yeah, repeating yourself. Yeah, so, you know, that there are so many things. And here's some more. Attitude. Your own attitude, attitudes of other people can have a big impact as well. You might not have the tools that you need to be able to deal with stress and chaos, which therefore means, you know, things build up rather than you being able to, you know, deal with situations. They get bigger and bigger because you're holding on to them, or you haven't been able to work through and resolve them, whether it's yourself or with your family or whatever the situation is. Believe it or not, hydration can be a huge contributor to chaos. And the reason I say that is because if we're not hydrated enough, we simply cannot think clearly. So, you know, when we're talking about that brain fog, I'm telling you right now, and this, you know, lack of sleep or poor sleep, not enough hydration, because every single cell in our body needs water to function at its optimal level. Yeah, go Shelley. Oh, have a drink too. It does. It really needs it. So, you know, when you get that tiredness in the afternoon, you get a headache, you can't think clearly. When you can't think clearly, think water. And that's a really easy reminder to make sure that you're having enough. You don't have to be thirsty to be dehydrated. So your nutrition. So nutrition can have a huge effect on your brain function again, and your ability to deal with situations. I can't go into that right now because it's a massive area in itself, but sugar can cause that brain fog, as can alcohol as well, and sugar and alcohol can also affect your sleep quality, so they're all kind of interlinked, you know. And as we were talking before, worry, fear, anxiety, really high expectations that we have on ourselves, or others may have on ourselves, but generally I tend to find that it's us setting our own expectations, that we think we can do everything for everybody, except we kind of don't factor ourselves into that, which is, you know, kind of makes everything else fall over. And exercise and movement can also affect, you know, one, as a contributor to chaos, but also it can help in the opposite as well. But like I said before, lack of control, lack of being able to, you know, change a situation or take away the pain of the people that we love and that we're caring for is just, it's almost unbearable. And we can kind of lose ourselves in that, and everything else starts happening around us, and it can be very, very difficult to get out of that. And so it is the big one, Sarah. It's absolutely the big one. And, you know, a lot of worry, fear and anxiety is one about, you know, we can't control what's going to happen in the future. We can't control, you know, what's happening in the most part, you know, whether it's to our children or someone that we care for. But there are some things that we can control. We can control what we, how we respond and how we act and react, I guess, to particular situations. Hi, Yvette, welcome. I'll just, oh, yep, you're on mute, beautiful. So, you know, that lack of control, I believe, is the biggest cause of stress for carers and parents, without doubt. Certainly in my experience, and I expect Shelley agrees too. So I'm just going to take a drink. I have PDA, as does my eldest, so the lack of control is the biggest thing for us. PDA, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. See, we all are comfortable with our own acronyms, but other people don't know what they mean. So this is as much a learning experience for me as it is for you guys as well. So while you're answering that, I'm going to continue on. Now, you know, I've highlighted all of these things. We could spend literally hours and hours and hours pulling apart and going through each one, but I'm not going to do that tonight because we want to get some quick wins on the board as far as being able to help you deal with some of the chaos in your life. So before we talk about how we can control some of the chaos, how we can get back some of that control, Shelley and I want to talk to you about what actually happens in the body when we're in chaos. And when I talk about chaos, really what I'm talking about is stress and overwhelm. And for most of us, we're in chronic stress, which means, you know, we've been in that stress state for a long, long time. And it's very unusual for a lot of us to not be in that stress state. So I'm just going to read the comments before I move on. Pathologica demand avoidance, part of the autism spectrum. It is basically ASD with stress and anxiety causing demand avoidance, controlling obsessive self-harming behaviours. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. All right, so what happens and how can I control it? Okay, so the stress response. You can see there that I've got a beautiful animated brain, and I'm going to take Shelley off mute and we're going to have a little bit of an open discussion. Like I said, I welcome questions, whether they're in the chat or whether you want to take yourself off mute, but we're going to go through very, very basically what happens in the body, just to give you some context as to why you might act and react in particular ways when you are in the stress state, and whether that's acute stress, meaning immediate, or long-term. So I'm just going to take Shelley off of mute.
I'm talking to baby. Hi.
Hi, how are you going? So let's just talk about very briefly, you know, the stress response. It's designed to keep us safe, right? It's
yeah,
go for it, Shelley. I won't interrupt you.
I would say yes. Obviously, as many people would know, back in caveman days, it was designed to keep us out of danger if we were facing a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or another tribe member or something like that. So it was basically, there to keep us safe. So it was to get us either get out of there really quickly, which is the whole point of it. And your body can't really, and what we know now is your body can't tell the difference, or your brain can't tell the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat. So today that's still around, that hasn't gone away. Like our appendix, we still have it, we don't know why, it's that kind of thing, it hasn't really evolved. So, sorry, my daughter's just...
That's okay. That's okay. No, do you want me to continue?
No, that's all right. So I was going to say, so today, even so,
it's fine.
Any threat, so it could be your boss, you get called into a meeting at work and your boss is going, you think you're in trouble, or if you're in the hospital situation, the kind of, you're waiting for news, you've just been given a diagnosis, all those type of things, or you're at home and you've got a gazillion things to do and it's piling up and then the phone rings and something else happens. So it's like, it's all those different, it's anything that can trigger that response of, oh my gosh, in your body. So your brain can't tell the difference. So whether it's, and that's basically what that part does. And I'll let you take over, Cathy, while I...
You're right. Yep. You're okay. So it really, when we get that immediate response, we have a shot of adrenaline that runs through our body. And what happens then is our body really prepares us for fight, flight, or freeze, which is what Shelley was talking about, right? So I'm either going to run for my life, I'm going to stay and fight, or I freeze and I don't know what to do. I can't do anything. And so, it shuts down your non-essential bodily functions. So we're talking about your digestive system in particular, and what the one of the biggest things that affects you immediately is where it shuts down the frontal lobe of your brain, which is responsible for decision making and behavior and controlling, what else, Shelley? I've just gone blank, but it's really about behavior and that sort of thing. And so, if you think about, okay, someone has either just had a go at you, or you've just had some really, really bad news, or you're trying to talk to a doctor or an educator and you can't think, it's because your brain has kind of shut down that section, or your body has shut down that section of your brain.
Yeah, so it's the front part. It's the
frontal lobe.
It's your frontal lobe, so it's basically your logical part of your brain.
That's right.
You're still doing all the cognitive stuff, so your brain is actually heightened, but just in a different area. So the logical part, with the reasoning part of your brain, shuts down, and the other parts of your brain turn on, as into, I need to get my legs and everything else working, I need to get out of here, that type of response. So it's basically, it has been described in my circles, in the neuroscience circles, as giving yourself a lobotomy. Like, it's like a self-lobotomy. It's like it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for me, and I expect for most of you, if you think about when you're having these discussions with people, unless I've got myself all prepared and things written down, or I can take the time to gather myself, I can't get my thoughts together. I can't ask the questions I would normally want to ask. I can't even take in most of the information that's being said to me. So, let's use diagnosis as an example. Would be lucky to hear 10% of what the doctor or the educator or whomever is actually telling us, because we're just in flight. If you don't have things written down to take with me, you just can't function. Absolutely, I agree 100%. And Kamala says the problem with PDA is you're constantly on edge and having the highs and lows of adrenaline. Yep. And the stress is constant. My son's stress level, for example, is a minimum of 2 out of 5, but usually 3 or 4 or so to rise to a 5, and outburst meltdowns happen really fast without warning, and little things can tip it over the edge, and he's on the edge all the time. I hear you and I feel you, and I know when Matthew had his head injury, that's what he was like all the time, and so I can really empathise with what you're going through. I was really lucky that happened ongoing for about 6 months, and it doesn't happen as much anymore, but I understand it's such a stressful situation, and so your acute stress goes into long-term stress, and so that's chronic stress. And this is exactly where I'm talking about now, whereas we produce these hormones, but as we keep pushing out more and more adrenaline in our body, it becomes depleted, and we're at real risk of things like adrenal fatigue, of our own chronic health issues, of other health issues for our children, if that's the state that they're in all the time. And so this is a really serious matter. It's not something that we're talking about just because it's fun or we don't like the feeling of. There are significant risks of being in that stressed state all the time. So let's move on and talk about what we can do about it, because it's all very well and good knowing what the triggers are and knowing about how it works in our body. We really want to know how we can take action. And if we had more time, I'd do some activities with you guys, but I think it's really important to go through this stuff and then we can have a chat. So what can you do? One of the biggest things for you to be able to do are, knowing what your triggers are, or what stresses you out, or what some of the things are that can contribute to your chaos and your stress levels, because knowledge is power, right? You know, like we said before, organization and writing things down, clearing the clutter in the home, you know, gratitude and mindfulness are really huge, and we could talk a long time about those. But these are just some of the things we can do. This isn't the key to what we can do right now. These are long-term strategies that a lot of us need a lot of help with. You know, we can, you know, set routines, and we can seek help, whether it's through family or therapists, or, you know, there's so many different mental health centres out there, and professionals out there that we don't even know about, like I said. You know, nutrition plays a huge part in it, and supplements can also help, especially with that chronic long-term stress. Yeah, connection, being able to just talk it out with people who get it can often really help us make sense of the world, and just get that chaos that's running through our head out. You know, journaling is a really good way for some people, or art, drawing, doing something, you know, getting out into nature. All of those things can be really cool things we can do, and it's about knowing what works for us, and, you know, purposely starting to implement some of those things into our lives. So, you know, if you know that you love the outdoors, you love the beach, or going for a walk, or you know, dancing, or whatever it is, bringing some of those things back into your life gradually on a schedule can really help balance out those stress levels and get the happy hormones pumping, particularly when it involves movement. But, you know, the easiest, most practical thing we can do right now in the throes of chaos is, can anyone tell me? Does anyone know? I'm going to go straight to it.
Oh, someone said.
Drink water? No. I thought that people might think that because of the ripples. Because I put the ripples there because, you know, it's a ripple effect. Yes, Sam. Gold points to you. Breathe. Okay, now it might sound absolutely ridiculous, and there's actually, you know, a structure that we can use as far as talking about breathing, but the breath is incredibly powerful, and what we can do with the breath when we harness it in the correct way, or in a way that works for us, can be literally life-changing. And we can actually teach this to the people that we care about, care for, our families and our friends. And, you know, I just want to tell you a story. So innately, when, you know, my kids were younger, we did the breath thing. I hadn't had any training on it. I didn't know anything about it, but it worked really well. And my nephew these days, he's 4, and he, from the time he was 2, he used to get really anxious and cry at the drop of a hat, and he couldn't calm himself, and he'd get to the point, you know, where he was holding his breath, he couldn't like that. And my sister was kind of beside herself, and you probably do it for your kids quite a lot, but perhaps you haven't used it for yourself, is, you know, bundling up your child, or the person that you're caring for, and teaching them how to breathe can be so important, and so, like I said, so life-changing. So for him, we would make it a game. So I would bundle him up and just be very calm, say not many words, let's breathe together, and we would practice the breath. So what we do is basically, I'm jumping ahead, but that's okay. So for me, this is how it works, but there's a couple of different methods you can use. So I like to do a 4-4-4. So I like to breathe in for the count of 4. So hold for 4, and then breathe out for 4. If I'm really stressed, I like to breathe out for 8 over just a bit of a longer period. But you can do that when you're in a stress situation. People don't have to watch you. You can ask just a second, I just need to catch my breath for a second, and then can you repeat your question, or can we talk, or whatever. You have absolutely every right to gather yourself before you move forward. You know, quite often we're asked questions or we're presented with information that we expect that we have to respond to straight away, and that's not the case at all. And often we'll pre-frame questions or thoughts before the person's finished talking because we're so anxious. So gifting yourself just a couple of minutes, it could even be a minute, 3 breaths, I say minimum, just to just settle. So if I'm just going to pretend that you're all doing it with me. Hopefully you are. I can't see you all. But I would like you to do 3 breaths in and out. So I'm going to go in for the count of 4, hold for 4, and out for 8. Okay? So I'll try and count it through, but I could lose my breath. That's a bit funny. Anyway. All right. So here we go. So in for 4.
Okay. Ready?
Hold for 4, and okay, and in again for 4. Hold for 4, and out for 8. Last time, put one hand on your chest and one hand on your tummy. So in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 8. Now, if you have the opportunity, it's great to then shake it off. You know, shaking it off is actually really, really good. Before I go through the slide, a couple of other things that we can do as well, certainly if you're at home, is basically drop to the floor. So if, for instance, you're outside, and this is a really great exercise, particularly to do with young kids, drop to the floor, starfish on the ground, on the grass, and do it all as a game. And then you can all roll onto your back and do it again. But being being on the ground really is grounding. I know it sounds funny, but it is actually really grounding and brings you back down to earth and brings everyone back down to earth. So rather than going in, if you remember what we talked about, control, and we want to get control of a situation. So let's just say one of our kids is having a meltdown, and this isn't going to always work, but you know the situations where you think you might have a bit of play or leeway, where you say, right, game, we're all running outside, and you completely flip that situation around. You change, or distract, if you like, everybody in the house just by doing something completely different. Whether it's throwing yourself on the ground outside, or here's another one, if you're inside, just go and lay down and put your legs up against the wall. So say here's the wall, you lay down and your legs go up against the wall and you're facing the ceiling. You pop your arms out and you do the same. And I dare say that your child, if you've got young children, see you doing that, that's going to stop them in their tracks, because that's an unusual behaviour. And then you can make a game out of it. So the breath is really, really important. The reason I said pop your hand on your tummy and your hand on your chest, when I'm doing breathing with my kids, and I don't do it so often these days because they're a lot older, but when I did when they were younger, we transferred. So I had my hand on my son's chest, and he had his on mine, so we could actually, or I would have my hand on his chest, so that he can feel my calm. And that's the thing that happens with stress in a home, is that when we're all stressed, it's like a toxin that runs through the entire home. So if we can get in some pattern interrupting behaviors here, just through breath, just through different action, we can literally change the outcomes of what happens at home. If anybody's got any questions or any experiences that they want to share, please do so. I'm just going to have a quick look back at the chat.
Can I just add, Cathy? Can I just
please do.
The other reason why the breathing is so important on the physiological level, what it actually does is it pops your heart rate back to normal, which actually switches back on the front of your brain and deactivates the stress response. So that's how it happens on the physical level. So that's why it works and is brilliant for stopping it, because it's the off switch to the stress response, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shelley.
No worries. I just thought I'd add that in, because all the other stuff is brilliant, but that's actually...
No, that's the key.
Inside. Yeah, if you can see inside your body, it's the magic wand. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's the absolute why. So, and I haven't put why here. I put try. Why didn't I put why?
You've got me. It's good. I was just like,
that is absolutely is the whole point. So, we've covered all of these. It's about practice as well, and doing things together, because I'm a firm believer in the thing that, if we try and do or make a change in the family for one person, it's not going to be anywhere near as effective as if we include everyone. And the reason is, one, the one person doesn't feel isolated. Two, we're doing it as a team, so we can make games of it also, and we all feel supported. So we're more likely to be able to carry on those things together. You throw yourselves on the ground with them. Yep, that's excellent, Sarah. Love it. Absolutely. Stress is definitely contagious. Yep. In our house, we call it music breathing, as it is the breathing needed for singing and wind instruments. Singing and wind instruments. Yeah. Since starting the clarinet, my son has got better with the breathing and singing. Yeah, absolutely. And if you are a participant or have been a participant in my Back to Basics or any of my other programs, and I talk about gratitude and the practice of gratitude, we actually bring music into that, because it is one of the most calming, regrounding, recentering, flip your mood kind of tools that you can use. I just cannot highly recommend having music as part of your toolbox enough. It's just amazing. And for me, I know it can just change my mood like that. So does anybody have any questions in and around that? Does anyone want to discuss anything extra before we move on? All right. Yeah, my absolute pleasure, Sarah. When stressed at school, my son reads a book while listening to James Galloway flute music. Beautiful. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's working out what, like I said again, it's self-awareness. It's working out what works for us. We're quite often so onto the person we're caring for, what their needs are, what their triggers are, what works for them, and sometimes we need to start paying attention to what the same things are for ourselves. And, for instance, I knew that a calming strategy for my son was using Sudoku puzzles, or, you know, and the other one was music, or the other one was this or that, or whatever else. There are so many different things, and everyone's different, and it's really tapping into what works for you as the biggest key to unlocking, or, you know, really calming that stress in the home down. Sun comes when you absolutely, and I know that a lot of people that works for, you know, meditation as well, and guided meditation. There are so many apps on you know, on the internet these days. It's absolutely crazy, the tools we've actually got access to these days. So look, there's so much that we could talk about, and you know, we just don't have the time tonight, and I'm a big believer in people getting to bed at a reasonable hour, so I'm not going to keep you for a long time. But, you know, I do encourage you to let yourself off the hook, and that means be kind to yourself. Try not to expect so much from yourself, because you are one person, and you're an extremely important person in so many people's lives, you know, and you deserve to be treated with kindness and love and respect. In 2 weeks' time, I'm doing a Clear the Clutter workshop. So we're actually going to be talking a lot more about clearing mental clutter and physical clutter. So we'll talk a lot about organisation, and we'll talk about setting yourself up for success as far as being organised in the home, or when you go and see the specialist, or what have you, and setting up systems that can really support you in your caring role as well. So if you would like to come along to that is set up as an event if you're in the private group, that's set up as an event already. Please book into that, and it will be run pretty much exactly the same as this. But because you're here, there's a couple of offers for you, and I'm just releasing something really exciting. So before I do that, I'm just going to check the chat box. A brilliant meditation app that I recommend is Smiling Mind. Yep, do you know what? I've actually got that on the front screen of my mobile phone. So yeah. I agree.
It's on mine.
It's on yours too.
Yeah. It's on mine. It's just one I find is the best. It's really user-friendly. I love it.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay, so you may or may not have heard me talking about the overwhelm antidote before. It's a 6-week program, and is something that I created last year, and Shelley's had a lot to do with the creation of this program, and I'm really excited to be sharing it with you again. I'm going to flick over. So really, the overwhelm antidote is a 6-week online program like this. So we really get together as a group and talk through so many different things, and we workshop people's challenges and the things that they're facing in their lives, which is where people get huge shifts in their lives, you know, not just now, but well into the future as well. It really does take charge of your stress levels, creates time and space for you, and it's something that is focused for the whole family, not just simply you as a parent or a carer. We have different workshops, so live workshops like this. You also have I guess it's an information hub, isn't it, Shelley? Where you've got an online platform full of different links and information. We have lots of Q&A sessions. We also have different guest experts that I do interviews with and masterclasses. And these guest experts yes, they're experts in their own field, but they too are carers. So for instance, you know, we have people come in, we've got a lady that comes in and we talk about relationships. So, I mean, that's an amazing session in itself. And we talk about relationships within the home. And so sibling to sibling, parent to child, your intimate relationships as well. And then we also talk about, you know, your relationships outside of the home as well. We talk a lot more about stress and some ways to deal with stress. We talk about advocacy. We go in depth into nutrition and organisation and planning and support. There's just, and self-development and self-awareness. We actually workshop you through how to become more self-aware and give you some of the tools that you might need that will really help you. But it's very much tailored to you. And that's why I don't like to have a lot of people in the group at once, so that we can ensure that we give, you know, the utmost attention to everybody. Isn't that right, Shelley?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a 9-week program, but I've taken some of the information out of it, and it's a lot more face-to-face now. So, you know, you're not going to be overwhelmed by huge amounts of information. It's there if you need it, but it's not essential. So it's guided all the way as well. As part of it, you get, you're part of a private Facebook group as well. And, and you get audio, video, and written content. You get PDFs. You work through each week, you know, what your goals are, what your focuses are, and we come in and, you know, it's a real accountability circle as well. And you get lots of us cheering for you and supporting you, as you will see also in our free group as well. All right. So, look, I just wanted to show you a couple of the people who've provided some feedback. One is a gentleman who is a dad, and he did the first round of the overwhelm antidote, and he wasn't a carer per se, but he recommends it to everybody. He had a lot of self-awareness and personal development throughout the program, and it has literally changed his life, which is just makes me feel so wonderful that you know you can have such huge changes, and he still uses the information now. And another lady loved the program and thought that it was, you know, not too overwhelming, but, you know, we were very attentive and there when she needs. So Sarah says you did something similar at your medical clinic, which was mind blown while it was happening, but then you felt lost when it stopped. Yeah, absolutely. And this is where this is different. So would there be opportunities to keep going as a support group afterwards? Yes. Yes, there is. And that's, I've got some special things here. But so before I move on, I have got a slide that talks about the NDIS. So if you are registered under the NDIS and have a current plan, I would urge you to contact either your plan or support manager or coordinator and have a chat to them, because from my understanding, if you've got core supports and I think it's lifestyle supports or improved living in your plan, then you will be able to use your funding to subsidise or pay for this program. So this program, there are 2 different ways that you can join. So at the moment we have a super early bird, and we've got you know, exactly what I've just talked about then. Or we've also got the extra, which includes a one-on-one mentoring coaching session and a personalised plan with myself and or Shelley. And you get 3 months free access to the Caring Collective Membership Hub. So the Membership Hub is something new that's coming in January, or the end of January, I should say. And this is where you get your ongoing support afterwards as well. So you get, this is a 6-week program, you get 9 weeks of support, and basically if you choose to do the extra, you get 3 months worth of that initial membership, which is amazing value. So it's a $49 a month membership that you're getting for basically for free. So the membership, just very quickly, is an ongoing support service where you have access to workshops like this. You also have access to, excuse me, too much talking. I've got a dry bit in my throat. Okay, so we have different guest experts come in and do, excuse me, sorry. Can you believe this, Shelley?
No, but yeah. I can't even take over for you.
I've just got a dry spot because talking. So, yes, we have the Carers Lounge, which is basically we come in and chat and we talk about particular situations. We have spotlight sessions where we workshop your issues. We have, like I said, different guest experts come in and we talk about money and we talk about life and we talk about carer issues and whatever it is that's relevant for you at the time. I source those experts in. So it's an amazing new program. Well, it's not a program, it's a membership that's coming early in the new year, and you get to be one of the very first people who are able to join that, and for free. But tonight I've got a couple of special gifts in relation to the ovum antidote. So there is a free place to be won. So you actually can be given an opportunity to win a place. Now you all automatically go in the draw to win a place because you're here at this workshop. So all you have to do is to attend one of the two workshops, which you're here, and or add a new member or members to our community who are a great fit. And by that, I mean, don't just add anyone. I don't want just anyone in our community. What I would love for our community is to be able to continue to reach other people and support other carers and parents who are in similar situations to us. Because I'm a great believer in, you know, bringing a community together. We can lift each other up and support each other so much better when we all get it. So community is so important to me. So you're already in the draw to win a free place, and when I do draw it, names are literally in a bucket and we'll take it out like that. So and if somebody has already, because 2 people won places last time, so they're not eligible to go in the draw again. Excuse me. So we have also an extra special gift. So 10% extra off if you book before the 1st of October for payments in full, and you can use the Calm Chaos 17 code for that. Also, the other thing that we have got is a payment plan. So if you're strapped for cash, we have got it. Basically, you can pay over 12 weeks. Thank you, Yvette. You can pay over 12 weeks as well. So there is that option there as well. You know, money is always a really difficult thing for all of us. And that's why I wanted to ensure that there's payment options. If 12 weeks doesn't suit you, but you really, really want to do this program, please contact me by email and I will work out a private agreement with you over a bit of a longer period of time, okay? And like I said, I would urge you to contact your NDIS, either plan manager or support manager, or at least have a look in your plan, because this fits under a number of different levels, okay? So if you're not sure, give me a call. Send me an email. I can also send you a list of exactly what's in the program, who's in it, etc., etc. A lot of the experts are actually registered under the NDIS as well, so that will also help, and I can provide you with whatever it is that you need. So the NDIS is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. See, there you go. I'm using acronyms myself. So we finally have our info for the girls from the Women's and Children's and are applying now. Would that work? It won't work until you're actually approved. I'm expecting that certainly the membership, you'll also be able to use your NDIS funding for as well. So that's what I'm looking into at the moment. But until your plan's approved, that won't work, Sarah. I'm just going to pop this address in here so you can go straight to the link. Now, don't forget we've got a live Q&A once I stop recording as well. So that's the link. That should work. If you've got any problems, contact me here. hello@thecarersplace.com.au. And that brings us to the end of the slideshow and the workshop. So for those of you who came and those of you who are also watching back the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to come along. I hope that you got something out of it. Please let me know if you'd like to know or know more information, what you would like to hear more information about, what workshops you would like to see things on or about, because it's not just me who be able to provide different workshops for you as well. I can source experts from all over. So this is your place. This is the carer's place. And we're very much focused on what your needs are. So please don't hesitate to contact me in that regard as well. Thank you. Have a good evening and we'll talk soon. If you've got any questions, by all means, email me. hello@thecarersplace.com.au. Thank you.